Going right in, guys. So, welcome back. This is part two, talking about needing an advocate for the medical system and essentially navigating really significant health crises within families. That's the whole arena that we're talking about here. So, we've seen this many times over and we understand it. We understand why it happens. But I think we live in a world right now, you have to educate yourself on health. Like, you don't really have the option to just put your blind trust into conventional medicine. Because if you look at the leading cause of death, it's called iatrogenic, aka mistakes in hospitals, mistakes by healthcare providers. That is the leading cause of death. It's not cancer, it's not heart disease, it's not any of that. So you should probably take an interest in how can you best be your own advocate and also an advocate for your family. But what happens is our original podcast as we were talking about my mom had a stroke, went to the hospital because we were concerned it was hemorrhagic. We 100% knew we needed a CT scan. We needed to see what's going on in the brain, and we needed to know what we were working with. And she needed to get a tube in her head. She needed to get that pressure drained from her brain. If that pressure stayed, there could have been a lot more significant problems. So it was 100% necessary. And this is the beauty of the medical system is they do things like that that can make or break outcomes. Because if somebody had a stroke and there was a huge delay and that pressure built up in the brain and the inflammation built up in the brain, that would create permanent damage in the brain. Or I don't want to say nothing is really actually permanent. That's a whole another podcast in itself, but it could create bigger
It'd be
issues
a
that
lot
would
more
take longer to
difficult to
fix.
overcome. Yeah.
100%, 100%. But in situations like this, people move into fear of, is she going to be okay? Is she going to die? Is she going to have brain damage? Is she going to be a vegetable? Is she going to be able to walk again? And when we do that, we put trust in other parties that maybe we shouldn't. And also when we're in that state, we can't think straight. And we're just like, whatever needs to be done, whatever needs to be done, give her whatever. Oh my God, she's in pain. Oh, she's having a panic attack. Give her the medication, give her the medication. And if you don't ask questions and you don't even use fucking Google at minimum, serious shit can happen. And essentially, what I'll lead with here is that there were, over the course of the past 3.5 weeks, that my mom went from emergency room into a rehab. There have been 3 different medications advised on 3 different occasions that were contraindicated to stroke. One of the drugs, the primary side effect, was death. And you know why I know that? It was because one, I asked questions, and two, Google. Literally, you can go on Google, you can type in the name of a medication, and right after you type in the name, you type in package insert. It gives you the exact PDF of the little insert that goes in the box with the medication. Gives you all of the side effects, the contraindications, black box warning, everything. Anything that you need to know is in that package insert. And so they they recommended a drug to help with spasming in her arm because her arm is still not really operational from the stroke. And so they said, we want to be proactive and make sure she doesn't get any muscle spasms in her left arm. Sounds so benign, right? Like, oh, okay, I don't want my mom to have muscle spasms in her arm. But I'm like, what's the drug? I would like to know the name. I would like to know the dose that you're going to recommend. I would like to know how often you're going to give it to her, et cetera, et cetera. Go on my lovely friend Google, put in the medication name, put in package insert. This was the drug. Contraindicated to stroke. If someone has had a stroke, there is a strong probability that they would have another stroke. But if she did have another stroke in the hospital or in the rehab, they would have been like, oh, yeah, Well, she had one, so it makes sense she had another. The problem is still there when it's actually medication induced. And literally, the primary side effect was fucking death. All to eliminate the possibility of a fucking muscle spasm.
How's
Mhm.
this benefiting you?
In this moment, it makes me very
In
happy
that
about what I fucking do.
in, in that moment when you look up the package insert and you're like, fucking dumbasses.
Well, how does it benefit me? This is, by the way, this is what Nick does to you when you work with us. um, it makes me more educated in knowing that medication should be the last resort and that the body is very strong and very powerful and very resilient. And especially when you give it what it needs and you don't put things in that have crazy side effects.
Yes. And I would still challenge that that's actually a superficial level. Because deeper, you started out that, you know, we say yes, initially because many different reasons, but it's all coming back to a state of fear.
Mhm.
And when we're in a state of fear, you said that we give our trust to somebody else, somebody that has more certainty. Unfortunately, most of that certainty through the medical system isn't beneficial certainty to an extent. Maybe beneficial for the spasm, but not beneficial for creating another stroke or possibly killing the person. So what you actually did in that process and how it benefited you is it made you increase the strength of your neural pathways, of your belief systems, of your thinking to say, universe, throw anything you can at me, because right now you're throwing the possibility of me losing my mom, and I just had the ability to overcome fear to be more certain myself,
Yeah.
to be more empowered myself. The more empowered you are, power is a direct correlation to the amount of love you have for yourself.
Mhm.
Anytime that you're disempowered, it's the amount of inability to love yourself. And you can't love your mom if you don't love yourself. So you had to love yourself enough to be able to ask questions, to be able to increase the certainty, to be able to provide for your mom.
Yeah.
And that's the opportunity that was given to you, which is fucking beautiful
Yeah.
because there's not many moments in life that will challenge certainty and give you fear to the aspect of losing a family member.
Yeah. But it's like I also think it goes back to what you always say is, the quality of your life is dictated by quality questions. And it's like the quality of your outcomes is dictated by quality questions. And I think that a lot of people don't know the right questions to ask when you're in a hospital setting, when you're in an emergency setting. And don't get me wrong, there's a very powerful, authoritative energy coming from doctors and nurses. They don't want you to challenge them. They don't like being asked questions. At one point there was a doctor that got very intense with my dad, and then I had to step in, and he was able to soften when he understood why we were asking the questions that we were. So I understand how people kind of get punked out in these types of situations, but you fucking have every right to be asking questions to understand the whole picture of how a family member is being treated and what's being recommended. One of the other factors that I think that could have been very, very confusing for family members in this same situation that we've been in is that when my mom was first admitted, and it was within the first week where she was in the emergency room, of course, we're observing her in a not a great cognitive state, and we're looking at this of like, is this damage from the stroke? Is this damage from the hemorrhage? Is this medication induced? Like, what is this? it's hard to know. It's very hard to know, even when you're, you know, asking questions. And at one point, my mom was, they sat her up and she was slopped over to the side, which was her left side, which is the side of paralysis. And she's like, oh, like, and I, this is going to be kind of funny because I asked my mom, I go, oh, how do you feel in this moment? Like, do you feel anxious? Do you feel worried? Do you feel calm? Like, what do you feel right now? Do you feel confused? She's like, I feel really relaxed. And I was like, you ain't never relaxed. So I go, Dad, turn the phone. I go, she's high as fuck. And it turned out that they were giving her excessive amounts of oxycodone, which is a narcotic. It's an opioid. It is literally essentially the same thing as heroin. It's just time released. And I started to, and listen, she just had a stroke. I imagine that it feels like somebody put a spike through her head. I am not going to be ignorant to that to say, get her off all these pain medications. But one, there are other pain medication options. Why was the first option to put her on oxycodone? It's not that it's the strongest out there and nothing else competes with it. That's not the case at all. There's morphine, there's other opportunities. And so I started to ask questions. I'm like, what's our reasoning for putting her on oxycodone? Number one. Number two is what is the max dose you'll go to in her situation, and how many times a day are you allowed to administer this? They could go up to 10 milligrams, up to 6 times a day, 60 milligrams of oxycodone for a 5'2" woman. You want her to become an addict? Because all you have to do is give her 1 10 milligram dose per day and she'll be an addict. Did you take a history on any type of addiction tendencies? Nope, none of that. We feel the benefit outweighs the risk. The way they answer you is like, it's very robotic. They have been trained very, very well. And I was like, guess what? Why don't we fucking try Tylenol? Tylenol codeine. And let's just, we're no, hard no on the oxy. And literally, she looked like a heroin addict. And because unfortunately, there
Well,
was
you
a
can
point
tell
in
just
my
by
life
looking at
where,
her eyes, like,
yeah,
there's a difference when looking at somebody's eyes. That's going to be, the nervous system's going to be affected by both the drugs and stroke, but, the stroke, the eyes are going to look completely different. And you could tell it was
yeah, the
drug
pupils are
induced.
really
Yeah,
small.
yeah.
But then in addition, there are many people that might be listening here that have taken sleep medications. Ambien is the most commonly prescribed one. And so one morning we saw that she was really cognitively off again. And then it turned out my dad leaves at night because he has to go home. They have a dog, take care of the dog, and then he always goes back early in the morning. And he's like, something's off, something's weird. And it turned out that she couldn't sleep. So they came in and they gave her Ambien. And Ambien contraindicated for brain injury. Number one. Number two is it can make you delirious, hallucinatory, especially if there's brain inflammation already. And she was acting bizarre. She was having a panic attack, etc. And it was because of the Ambien. So then, when we're like, okay, so no oxycodone, no Ambien. And once we finally signed off that she was not going to be put on any of these mind or altering types of medications, we're like, whoa, there she is. There's the woman we knew. Don't get me wrong. Is she struggling with words? She gets she's a little slower to respond. She gets, her words twisted a little bit. That's her brain's still inflamed. Like we expect that. We don't think it's permanent, but we expect that there's going to be some level of difference from who she was prior to the stroke. But as soon as we got those drugs out of the picture, we're able to really see where she's at. But it could, think about fueling your fear and anxiety and your worry is when you're looking at a person you love and you're like, oh, what's wrong with them? What's wrong? What's wrong? And it has nothing to do with what damage is actually there. It has to do with the fucking drugs they're giving them.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible to make intelligent, objective decisions when subjectively everything's been altered.
Yeah. and then they were also giving her drugs like trazodone and gabapentin. For those of you interested in knowing about those drugs, we have a blog on our website goes in depth about it, but they've found that both of those drugs create neuronal damage, damage to the neurons. Why are we creating more neuronal damage in a person that already has damage from a stroke to the brain? So it's just the the standard and what is allowed in these settings is to me fucking crazy, but it's to them as I'm having conversations with these healthcare professionals in the hospital, they're just like, oh, okay, well, we just felt like she had nerve pain, she's been saying her back hurts, so we just thought that that was appropriate. I'm like, yeah, but the whole reason she's there is because of a stroke. So can like did we forget that? Like what's happening here? It
Well, it's
so it
just I think their training isn't,
It's
based off
patch,
of,
patch. Oh,
well,
my
yeah, it's
toe hurts. Oh, we'll give you something for that. Oh, my back hurts. We'll give you something for that. And it's like they lose sight of the whole reason she was there. They're not interested in actually rehabbing the stroke. They're just interested in just making sure that she's comfortable so they don't get sued.
or yeah, there's only so much I can say on a podcast.
Mm, yeah. So, so the point that we're bringing this to your attention is because one, if somebody goes into a hospital setting and shit starts to go bad, shit starts to go downhill, because I hear this a lot, this might not be because, oh, the health is just declining, or this person is just, this is just the reality for this person, this condition, this heart attack, this stroke, this whatever. It could be the interventions not being appropriate for the person. It could be the interventions that are actually problematic. So you need to ask questions. And if you don't know the fucking answer to the questions, if you don't know like what does this medication do, you don't know, then hire someone who can help you. Someone who can be an advocate that is looking at the big picture. Use Google for the love of Pete. Like and use that tool that we just told you. Put the medication in and type in package insert. And you could at least have some information and ask quality questions like, oh, I see here that the package insert says these side effects are possible. Why would we want to give this? How long would we be giving this for, et cetera, et cetera. And so it allows you to feel more empowered in these conversations and not make decisions out of fear, but make decisions that you feel like are more aligned to the outcomes that you desire. And and also you have to understand how powerful the body is and how resilient the body is. It is not that, the hospitals and most medical professionals, they want to give you worst case scenario because honestly they don't want to give you hope that doesn't turn out that way. They don't want to say, "Oh, well, it's possible for full recovery." And then if the person doesn't have full recovery and now you're saying, "But you said that there was a possibility for full recovery." They don't want to take that responsibility. And so, you have to understand that you're being given worst case scenario information because that's a way that they kind of cover their ass. It's a way that they don't get themselves in trouble for saying the wrong thing.
So I'm just going to go there.
Okay.
Not not to the depths that I want to. Um, all those things are true, but they're still honestly still very superficial. Um, it's like there's the anger and the rage that you have for, the lack of quote unquote common sense on the recommendations, the prescriptions of things. You're just like, if you're using common sense and you're like, oh, this person, has cramping or has whatever going on, you're like, you're not going to give them medication for that if it's going to create actually more harm than benefits.
Yeah.
You're saying that it's going to benefit them in the short term, but yeah, but you might fucking kill them in the longer short term. Um, and it's like you don't give people hope and all these things, but you look at, like you said, the biggest cause of death are those decisions that their interactions are creating. And then you also look at science and what's the biggest thing that makes change? Do you know off the top of your head?
Just tell me. I don't know. I don't know which way
The,
you're going with this. So,
the placebo effect.
okay. See, yes.
So scientifically proven, quote unquote, the medical system kills the most people, and a belief is what saves the most people.
Yeah.
And they're instilling a belief system of worst case scenario. And if that's the belief system, the placebo effect is going to say, hey, this isn't going to work. And then we're going to give them recommendations that are going to create interactions that are going to fuck them up more. You're in a lose-lose situation. If you get out there, great. You're literally go buy a lottery ticket because you're a fucking winner. It's the system's fucking designed to lose.
Yeah.
Being alive doesn't mean you're winning. The system's designed to lose. And guess what? There's an equal and opposite reaction. So if you're losing, guess what? Somebody else is winning. Who's that's winning? I'm not going to say it on the podcast, but just think.
Yeah.
Follow the money. Follow the control. This isn't just designed to keep it's designed what we talked about to keep you disempowered, to keep you in a state of fear, to keep you controlled, to keep you broke, to keep you fucking not
To
living
keep
your
you
life,
paying
not
thousands of
thriving.
dollars for medical insurance for the just in case, for the what ifs, when you could be investing that in ways to be proactive in your health.
or or just enjoying your life.
Or yeah, or just go on fucking vacation, go live on an island somewhere
So,
and eat coconuts. Like,
so not against the system because emergency case has its aspect, but soon as they quote unquote keep somebody alive, for the most part, everything after that is designed to fuck you up.
and it's
They
also
don't know that.
a bit of
And the doctors don't know that, the nurses don't know that. Like
no,
this is designed from a very, very intelligent awareness high above.
yeah.
And so, like I
And it's
said, the
also a
quality.
game to get to even get discharged. So when the medication was recommended with the side effect of death and the side effect of potential stroke, I had a conversation with my dad. I was like, we need to get her discharged because now this is scary. Like this is like, what if they give it to her? Somebody doesn't read the notes, the chart notes that we are denying this, and somebody gives it to her. I was like, we need to get her the fuck out of here. And they're playing the game of insurance. Oh, well, if you discharge her early, then you're not going to have the insurance cover X. The insurance won't necessarily pay for the wheelchair. The wheelchair is $20,000. If you want to pay for it out of pocket, you're not going to get all the home care. You won't be eligible for this. You won't be eligible for that. So it's a fucking game. It's bullshit the way that it's set up. So then, you're like, you have to be independently wealthy if you want to say, fuck off. I want to save her and get her the hell out of here. So now instead, we have to be like hyper vigilant with being on top of everything and making sure that, we are monitoring every doctor nurse that's going in and out of her room to keep her safe and get her out of the fucking rehab. So yeah, it's some wild shit. And at the end of the day, it's like people, this has to be a conversation. And for those of you that might be doctors or nurses that are listening to this, like, this is not to shit on you guys by any means. This is more so that, you know, there's a lot, like, it's very difficult. Hospitals are huge. There are, people rotating on floors. Like, you guys are tired. Half the time you don't have time to eat. You're drinking caffeine to stay awake. Like, it's an unhealthy environment even for you as the workers. And there's also a system set in place. Like, it's not like you walk in as the nurse and you're free to do what you think is best for the client or the patient. We know that, like, it's like you got to follow rules. You got to make sure this T is crossed and this I is dotted. Like, I get it. We get it. But at the end of the day, it's just, there has to be more of of a level of case management, and there has to be a deeper look at what was the origination for this person coming in, opposed to just palliating symptoms. That's what we found, is that, okay, it was immediate focus on the stroke within the first couple of days, and then it was all about palliating symptoms. Palliate the fact that her back hurts, palliate that she has some nerve pain here, palliate the headache, palliate this. And that's where the problems start. Because if you're patchworking with all these different medications, patches, this and that, things interact, things are contraindicated. This is where the problems start.
No, I think the problem started when all society sees this and we ignore it. And then we still say, okay, I'm not going to deal with my emotional issues. I'm still going to eat like shit. I'm still going to overly drink. I'm still going to, we breathe in toxins every single day just because
Yep.
of industry. And I'm not going to do, a quarterly, at least a yearly detox to flush out and, have a healthy kidney, have a healthy liver, to be able to actually regulate my immune system. I'm not going to take probiotics to make sure there's a diverse colony that my cells can communicate properly together and actually make the neurotransmitters for my brain to help actually give my mind a better chance to be regulated in a state of equanimity. Like that's the fucking problem,
But
is
I think
that
at the end of the
we
day,
wait,
people don't
we
know what they don't
wait,
know.
we wait,
Yeah.
but that's the problem.
No, I
You
know.
don't know because you don't ask better quality questions. That's why my favorite quote is the quality of your life is dictated by the quality of the questions you ask. You don't ask quality questions, you're going to eventually be forced into a circumstance that is going to make you ask better quality questions. Or you can be preventative and not wait for that shit to happen.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, quote unquote, so most of society is going to chase pleasure, short-term pleasure, that's going to lead them to that long-term pain. That then they'll have to be able to deal with this really bad moment in their life to be able to learn this. But it's just common sense to say, hey, you can do just a little bit every single day. Start learning just a little bit every single day. Start balancing your mind a little bit every day. Start meditating just a little bit every single day. Stop watching social
But
media
I
and
think that
TV
it's
just a little
it's
bit every single
it's
day.
such a impressive accomplishment that we have, as, I don't even want to say us, like the US, the society of the US, like the world. And don't get me wrong, some cultures are better than others, but there is a underlying program that it's a luxury or it's not necessary to invest in yourself. Like, and this is from your mental health, your physical health, your your being a better leader, being a better parent, being a better business owner. Like, it's like, no, you just work. You just work. You go on some vacation sometimes, you get your pension, and you make money, and but you don't have to invest in yourself. You don't have to learn about your mental health. You don't have to learn about your physical health. You don't have to learn. You just hire other people for that stuff. Um, I think that's one of the most impressive accomplishments that the world has been able to, whatever you want to call it, it's been able to create that belief system that, you don't have to invest in yourself. And and then for the people that do, they get ostracized, or they get deemed crazy, or like, I can't believe you spend money on that, or I can't believe you bought a sauna, or I can't believe you bought this or that. It's such an interesting concept when you really like zoom out and look at it. All right, I want to wrap this up, because one of the things that I'm going to end with, that is going to lead into our next, is we talked all about the hospital. We talked about all these medications they've been recommending, and they've been pushing for anxiety medications. Reason being is panic attacks. And we have pushed back to not palliate her panic attacks. And there's a very, very, very specific reason why. And we're going to talk about that in the next podcast.